from the Embassy Row studios in the crap part of Soho. It's a morning after Men in Blazers podcast, Rog.
A little hungover, David.
Yeah, I think you are. We are recording this in the morning after the US 4-0 demolition of plucky Costa Rica.
Yeah. Defenestration.
Yeah.
I'm not physically hungover, children listening, just emotionally.
Uh-huh.
I could really do with a really greasy egg sandwich.
I could have done with another hour of sleep.
I could have. You know, in Italy, what they do for hangovers, they nibble on dried bull penis.
Really?
Yep. They use it to cure hangovers.
Is that everyone in Italy?
It works.
Or all Italians all over the world?
It works, David.
It does?
Yeah, I've cured on. I've actually nibbled on a lot of dried bull penis. It cures everything.
I'd just like a Bloody Mary, really. That would be nice.
What the heck?
Yeah.
I don't care about being down because there's no sleep till MetLife Stadium.
Yeah.
It's got a terrible catch, that phrase. It doesn't really work as well as no sleep to Moscow.
Yeah.
But the US won 4-0.
Yeah.
I feel alive.
Yeah.
I can feel my extremities, David.
Yeah.
Which is very rare.
I was very worried about you before the game. I mean, you are pretty much your default position is negative.
Yep.
Dark.
Yep. Honest.
Pessimistic.
True.
Before we go. Well,
life.
But usually
has taught me
it's
that
how you
all
are
of this
before games. You're always
sensible,
like that
rational.
before games because you care and therefore you protect yourself by thinking the worst and preparing yourself.
Managing expectations.
It was a little bit different yesterday. There was a darkness descended upon you, and unfortunately, it was the evening that my children had to join us in the office as we were preparing because my babysitter fell through, and I was a little worried for my little children.
Yep.
I warned them of the language they may be hearing throughout the game.
Yeah,
but
they just treated me generally as the Oompa Loompas treat Willy Wonka.
Well, you are.
With a sense of confused derision.
Yeah,
But
you are
we live in
their
harmony.
eccentric Uncle Rog,
Yeah.
as far as they're concerned.
Well, it's not just me, David.
Yeah.
I think the whole US fan base has lived so many emotions over the past 7 days. As fans, we moved from hope to dread to rhapsody.
And you're just talking about the media.
Well, we'll chat about them. Last night, we lived like Sirio Farrell. We looked at death in the eye and we said to death, not today, Davo. But we'll get to the US. We should contextualise all of
not
this.
today, death. I don't want you to think that Davo was death.
It's been a wild, odd opening week of football at this ersatz Copa America, in which we are immersing ourselves. I mean, I'd say the comb-over of football tournaments. It's a rare football tournament. If you've not been watching it, listeners, that would actually be improved if people blew vuvuzelas gratingly throughout the entire game.
It may not actually be a football tournament.
It's not clear to us.
Occasionally I'm watching it and I think some of it's in animation.
The quality...
And I hear little theme music in the background and weird sounds when people step on rakes and they hit them in the forehead.
The quality's patchy.
Yeah.
The players seem vaguely interested in competing.
Depending on who they're playing against and at what minute of the match it is.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's football in which the majority of athletes don't care about chasing a trophy which is not real before crowds who are not there. Otherwise, it's great. I mean,
it's funny.
Kanye West drew bigger crowds, let's just put it this way, for a 2 a.m. concert in New York City, which did not happen.
In the rain.
And if you couple that with an almost willful and mortifying inability to get the national anthems right pre-game, it's been a wild spectacle, David.
Yeah. It all kicked off with that opening ceremony, Rog, which was just... That was excellent.
Yeah, it looked like half the acts had just been playing moments before they stepped on stage before the world, a party in a Duke frat house. I've got to say, nothing makes me think about my own death and self-loathing more than white reggae artists.
White reggae Canadian artist called Magic.
I think
if Magic wasn't enough,
Bare Naked Ladies were not available, so they pawned off
if
their
the
mates.
name Magic wasn't enough, it then needed an exclamation mark after it to just complete the title of the band.
Yeah, as in shite.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't see them, just imagine one of Kyle Beckerman's wet dreams. And that's pretty well what played out before America. It was terrible. But we've got to say about these empty stadia, what I don't understand, David, I mean, it's all the complaints about overpriced tickets that we've had sent in to us from all over the nation, is you've got all of these MLS soccer-specific stadia that have been so wonderfully built over the past 2 decades in this country. But this tournament is almost solely played out in NFL stadia. It's almost as if they've set up to fail.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Rose Bowl which is a massive stadium. I think it's 90,000.
Yeah,
it looked
huge
half
stadium.
empty even
It
when
did.
they'd sold 50,000 tickets.
Yeah, and for Brazil, Ecuador, that is a stadium that you've got to put more than 60,000 in to have it look half decent.
Some of the attendances have been around the 10,000 figure.
Yeah.
At Gemature tweeted us and said, empty seats are a sign that soccer has matured in America. Americans will no longer pay for a crap product, which is a great way of looking
And the
at
problem is there are some games, of course, Mexico, Uruguay, Glendale, Arizona, which are going to be
60,000.
They're going to be massive. But my criticism, and I'm sure that that you're right, that this tournament should have been played in some of those MLS stadia. But you've got to also think that the US, that game last night against Costa
it.
Rica,
39,000.
that's not enough people to go and see a US game.
A do-or-die US game,
And a
David.
fantastic performance. I just don't think there are enough people there seeing it.
You could have fitted 20,000 more kids in there.
Yeah.
You could have seen DeAndre Yedlin run up and down that wing and say, one day, I want to play for America one day.
Yeah.
39,000 for a US game, David, at this stage.
In a tournament,
in the
horrible.
development of the football is embarrassing. Yet, ESPN Deportes is reporting backroom conversations,
Yeah.
mutter, mutter, bumble, bumble, between CONMEBOL and CONCACAF, the two regional governing bodies of South America and Central and North America, to say they're considering a permanent move for the Copa America to the United States every 4 years, merging the Gold Cup and the Copa, which is an astonishing reality if true, David. There's been some denials, including some of them Sunil Gulati.
Yeah, you could have CAF in, get UEFA,
Yeah.
the Asian Federation.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a land grab
Yeah, the
between the
Copa
Euros
America.
and the Copa America. Who
Copa
gets,
America
who
will
gets
have
the
everyone.
Africa Cup
It'll
of
just be
Nations?
another World Cup. This is the way you get to the World Cup every year, Rog.
I mean, to me, it suggests CONMEBOL love money more than the 100-year tradition of their tournament. I'm guessing the players love hanging out with Biebs and with Steph Curry more than anything that actually
Yeah.
takes place on the field.
Jamie Foxx, big draw.
But I would say it would be great for the United States if this came to be. It would give us sharpened competition that we need and crave to move to the next level. Competitive games outside of the World Cup tournament that are so vital for US talent to kind of sharpen their edge. I say that with no disrespect to St. Kitts and Nevis or Antigua or U Barbuda. And I guess the other thing that's fascinating about the United States, it's the one country in the world where almost every team can hope to have home field advantage.
Yeah, very, very true.
We've had a blast, Davey,
Yeah, we've loved it.
covering the tournament for Vice Sports,
Yeah,
Daily Hits,
yeah.
Facebook Live, what do you
Faccio
call it?
Bocalive.
I've loved every second, Davey.
Yeah.
At Sanchez14 tweeted us to say, that stain on Roger Bennett's right sleeve is really upsetting me.
Is that the one I did with the wine that I poured all over it?
Yeah, the Malbec.
It actually went over the collar, over the shoulder, and down your sleeve. Kaylin, my assistant, did a remarkable job getting it out of the rest of your shirt.
Remarkable as in not really very good at all, but it's a very nice token gesture.
She tried hard. She
Producer
tried.
Lex, that shirt is ruined. Producer Lex came up with the idea that David would balance a cup of wine on my head and pour it onto my
defense
head.
of producer Lexi,
Yeah.
she wanted a shot, and I came up
knew
with
where
the
it was gonna
idea.
end.
And I
She
came up
knew.
with the
She
idea
knew exactly
of
where it was
putting the
gonna end.
glass on your head.
I've got to be honest, it's my fault, because I actually thought that seersucker was chicken wing and wine resistant. My blazer's going to be 78% stained by the end of the month, Sunshine 40.
I don't think you were wearing your blazer at the point that I poured wine all over you.
David, you've poured wine on me several times. They're all merging into one awful human rights abuse. While we're talking about abuses,
Yeah.
can we just apologise to all GFOPs for the launch of our we finished off Sepp Blatter, now
Yeah.
we're coming for you, which Katie Nolan said is a bit of a double entendre.
We finished off Sepp Blatter. It never occurred to us that might be a double entendre.
No, we knew what
in
it
any
meant.
way.
It was a single entendre.
Yeah.
We knew it was meant to be that. The Scarf and Hat, the Cooper collection, which
Yeah.
came out with the great guys at Upper 90.
Yeah.
We just want to apologise. When we launched it last week,
Yeah.
so many of you logged in that you broke the Upper 90 website. And I know that it took some people about an hour to actually log in and all that stuff.
It was because of demand, not the North Koreans. I just want to say that the North Koreans
hacking the Upper 90
they
website.
were nothing. Even though we're part of Sony at Embassy Row, it was nothing to do with the
I
North
think
Koreans.
the North Koreans
They love
are
us.
pro finishing off
Yeah.
Sepp Blatter.
Yeah.
So I just want to apologise to all who were frustrated with that. It's not our style, and you are beautiful. There are a couple. I think there's a couple left, couple of dozen.
Yeah.
Of those hats and scarves. The deeper the US go into the tournament, the more you'll need them. I'm wearing that hat only just to protect myself against pouring Malbec.
Yeah, I know. Get ready. The whole bottle's coming at you later, Rog. Okay, we've got a packed show. We're going to relive every last glorious minute of last night's 4-0 US men's national team victory over Costa Rica, while also broaching the somewhat less joyous topic of Friday's 2-0 loss to Colombia. Weird, I'd completely forgotten that happened, Rog. We round up some of the other big storylines at Copa America, including a bootleg Brazil, magnificent Mexico, and a still messy-less Argentina. Plus, we open up the Premier League back pages to talk Vardy to Arsenal, Zlatan to United, and Everton got a new manager, Rog. Well done.
Patronise me.
Done, Roger. Okay, Rog, to the football. Crack it open. You've got the Guinness draft. I've got the Guinness blonde. Pour it away.
To St. Bobby Wood, the Lord of Lanai.
Yes, played by Emma Stone. Rog. Okay, let's start right in with the USA. One deflating loss, one ebullient win, and plenty of Mean Girls burn book-worthy comments flying all over the place. It all started with some curiously timed remarks Jurgen Klinsmann made to the Wall Street Journal's Matt Futterman, our mate, before the tournament began, Rog.
No one gets better quotes out of Jurgen Klinsmann than Matt Futterman of the Wall Street Journal.
Why is that, do you think?
Matt, I spoke to him and asked him that. He's a very modest man. He's just like right person, right time. But Matt was the man, if you don't remember, to whom Jurgen chose to confide that Klim Dempsey has not proven shit. Right before the 2014 World Cup cycle really began in earnest. And Matt sat down 2 weeks ago with Jurgen Klinsmann in an interview US Soccer knew would be released in the couple of days before the Colombia game, but they still went ahead. And Jurgen I can only describe it, threw so much shade, so many bombs at the US talent pool. I wrote a couple of the lines down here if you've not read it.
Go.
He said, "We have too many people waiting for others to solve their problems, which comes from a reactive culture. It's our fault, America. We're
Apparently, it's all to do with our sports culture as well.
Yeah, no, society at large.
In general.
David. Yeah. I mean, what happened, the amazing line, what happened to the Bill Hamids, the Sean Johnsons, the Breck Shays, the Mixed Discaroods? You go through and make your own judgment. Gideon's LLM, Julian Green."
Does this mean all of their careers are now over?
We'll discuss.
Okay.
He said from 17 or 18 until 22 or 23, that's where we kind of lose a lot of quality kids because they don't find their right footing. They don't fight their way through into their club teams. They find ways to accept rather than fight. Beautiful sentence coming up. You could say this about me too, Jurgen. You've got to become physically stronger. You've got to be nastier in training sessions. You've got to become a man. And then the paragraph of paragraphs, Davo, which has to be read by you.
Matt Miazga, intimidate! Make sure you get every header. How is it possible that every second corner from Chelsea finds John Terry? Because he's determined. He reads the ball ahead of time. He starts his run ahead of time, and he is so aggressive to get those balls. So how can you teach that? Matt Miazga, take that. You are taller than John Terry. Build that into your game and build another weapon.
Build another weapon, Davo. I mean, first of all, I can't think, and I've read this article 110 times. I can't think of another manager in international football other than Jurgen who would be able to get away with this before a tournament. Maybe Jurgen ultimately didn't get away with it, but this smacked of two things to me. Number one, a man getting in his excuses before a ball was kicked. And number two, a former elite player who was skill-blessed, unable to relate to the challenges faced by ordinary, mere mortal footballers. Do you really think Matt Miazga's not thought about getting his head on the end of every corner? Do you really think he doesn't try? Or is it just that he's not in the superlative bracket of JT, David?
I think it's interesting. I mean, look, I'm not going to in any way defend Jurgen for having these statements. Number one, saying them out loud to a journalist and having them come out before a major tournament. There is just no excuse for it whatsoever. However, I do think that if you put that to one side, there's got to be you've got to take a moment to just look into whether or not there is some truth in what he's saying, that some of our young elite players, some of these younger players who we think are going to be amazing, aren't quite developing into these superstars that we think they're going to be, and what it is about our system or about their mentality which is making that happen. I think that's a legitimate question. It just shouldn't be raised in the Wall Street Journal the night before a major tournament.
By the technical director of US Soccer.
Who's also the coach of the US men's national team.
I just kept thinking, I got refluxy feelings when I read this, David. It lasted until kickoff, thinking, what would the players say to each other before the game when they read that article? And they will have read it. And it would not have made them think, this is a manager who, come what may, has got our backs in this tournament. And then you think, what happens to the squad? I mean, the players in that reality, because they love the Wall Street Journal weekend edition.
Yeah, they love
it's
Matt Hartman's writing.
It's one of Clint Dempsey's pleasures of the week. He loves the Financial Times Arts and Leisure section.
He's just like me.
Loves the weekend section of the WSJ.
House and home.
And players start to go into self-preservation mode. And they start to play with fear. Exhibit A, the England national team over the past 15 years. So dart wings, dart words before kick-off, Davo, for a game that meant little competitively, but everything symbolically for this US team.
Fortunately, he didn't criticise directly the players involved in this squad and involved in these games, Rog.
True.
And so the one thing that, athletes are, by definition, they are self-centered, they are selfish. It's probably why they've become so successful. They probably thought, well, didn't apply to me, that applied to those other guys.
Yeah, just wait for part 2 to come out the day the tournament ends.
It's all about Zuzi.
Yeah. I've got to say, I felt even worse after I killed the time running up to kickoff playing as the United States against Colombia with my son Oz, who is 5, a FIFA addict. And he insisted we play the US team together, and he inserted Jordan Morris into the lineup, by the way. The game against Colombia was 3-3 going into time added on. 91st minute, we won a penalty. Bedoya fouled in the box. Clint Dempsey stepped up to take it, and my 5-year-old son, grabbed my paddle and insisted on seizing the moment of glory. I actually videoed this. Clint Dempsey ran up to take the penalty and he fell over onto his arse, Davo, within the FIFA game, John Terry Champions League style, and skied it. The game ended 3-3, and I knew then, Davo, we were doomed. And I was not wrong, because what followed was a performance by the US team so dispiriting, it could be presented in court by the US women's national team as Exhibit A in their fight for equal pay.
And look, Colombia are a very good football team. They haven't had a good 18 months or so, but they're a very, very good football team, and I think they proved it in this game. Look, some of the unhappiness of US fans and people in the US media started the moment he named his team. No place for teenage wunderkind Christian Pulisic. No place for the new darling of US men's national team followers, Darlington Nagbe. They're on the bench. So I think it started, and everybody was very worried going into that game. I thought the US started actually playing pretty well, and then that set piece after 8 minutes, and that was it, Roger.
Yeah, I mean, I knew we were doomed before that, Davo. 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
Jeff Cameron did that 360-degree spin off Daniel Torres.
Yeah.
And I thought, who does that? What kind of an American player? I mean, Jeff Cameron is a terrific Premier League servant, but the frame of mind that made him think he was suddenly Luka Modric or Riyad Mahrez, just the wrong frame of mind as an experienced leader of the team. I screamed at the television like Han Solo shouting at novice Luke Skywalker, "Don't get cocky, kid!" But to no avail. Did you know, Davo, by the way, players can't hear you when you shout through the television?
Yeah, no, I did know that.
I
haven't wanted to say that to you before. I don't know who had the nerve to say it to you. My guess is only Mrs. B would have the nerve to tell you.
Someone invent that, because that wrong frame of mind came to roost just 3 minutes later. If the US had one mandate, it was keep Colombia off the board early.
Yeah.
Start to signal that it would be better for both sides if we just play out a draw in the first game. No one needs to win.
Yeah.
But just neither team wants to lose. But on 8 minutes, David, that awful, ugly leak goal. And it was Jeff Cameron who claimed he was picked off like a kind of Stockton and Malone pick and roll, David.
Yeah, but the number one rule on a corner, on any set pieces, as a defender, you've got to get your head to the ball before the opposition. You've got to be like John Terry, Rog.
Zapata shaking off Cameron with a pick, then slapping the ball past poor prey for Guzan with an incredible confident volley for a defender. The big theme of this game to me, Davo, was that it was the experienced heads that hurt us. This squad is a mix of green shoots of young talent and old experienced heads. And in this game, the crucial mistakes, Jeff Cameron. I mean, Jermaine Jones in this game, we'll talk about him against Costa Rica in a minute, but he looked like German-American Yaya Toure, as if he was saving all of his energy for World Cup 2030.
Or for the Costa Rica game.
Bedoya struggled.
Yeah.
Clint Dempsey hustled in the second half, but he took the best chance off the foot of Pulisic. when the goal was at his mercy. Bradley became the piñata for an anxious nation. I mean, let's be clear about Bradley. He's a fantastic footballer, physically, tactically. To me, he's an American who longs to, and if you interview him, he talks about it. He will say, I want to be the player that makes the big plays in the big moments, in the big games for big teams. But there's something about him. We talked about it on the Vice show. When he pulls on an American jersey, those children's clown pajamas, it's like my son's got a sesame allergy, another's got a peanut allergy. I think he's either allergic to clown pajamas or he's allergic to German coaches, Davo, because he becomes a different player.
Yeah, he's given a lot to do in that system, though, against an elite team like Colombia. Not easy to go and play that position. I know he wants to have all that pressure on him. I know he wants those big moments, but he seemed quite isolated from the players around him in that game.
Quick one, it was a stone cold penalty, we agree, right?
Yeah, stone cold penalty. Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine seeing that not given in any league around the world and being shocked that it wasn't given. The hand was up. It clearly hit the ball. Yes, he wasn't looking at the point that he turned around, but the hand must have been out. He should have been looking. He should have been looking. That penalty is going to be given every single time, whatever Brad Friedel had to say in the commentary.
And the US came with endeavour, but they had 61% of possession in that first half, did not create a shot on goal. Their set pieces were all wasted, players taking turns to thrash it against the wall. I mean, their set pieces were worse than David Beckham's Spanish in a Sprint commercial. And the net effect was numbing, David. You've always talked about how international football is an all-star team, and the teams that prosper are the ones that find partnerships quickly on the field, tandems, mini units within the collective.
Units within units.
And in this game, who was looking for who? Who was the reliable outlet? Bobby Wood and Clint Dempsey. Their relationship was kind of like the same status of Taylor Swift and Calvin Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, we joke about 11 best friends. Thank you, Charlie, as a Red. But what we saw was nothing but a bunch of well-intentioned, hepped-up guys trying their hardest as individuals, but failing to create anything collective that could amplify that.
And my feeling until the substitutions, only one player really acquitted himself really well, which is Fabian Johnson. Rog had a fantastic game. The US had some great passages of play, but partly because Colombia went up and they sort of eased back and Colombia kind of shut down the game.
Never really got out of second gear. And at the end, Jurgen's post-match comments that there was no difference between the teams other than the 2 goals. We've covered that and we've laughed at it. It's like saying there wasn't much between Brazil and Germany in the semi-final other than 7 goals.
It's only the 7 goals, right?
Yeah, there's nothing in the tournament. Yeah, Everton won the league
Germany
apart from 1 point.
Yeah.
They did. And I've been reading Second-Hand Time, The Last of the Soviets by Svetlana Alexievich.
No, you love that book.
She travels around the former Soviet Union, interviews everyday people about the seismic adjustment from the communist era to the present day. She interviewed a lot of former Communist Party functionaries. She asked them how they kept their faith in Stalin while they were doing menial jobs, while kind of chaos was reigning all around them. And one woman said it was simple, because we believed that tomorrow would be better than today, and the day after tomorrow would be better than yesterday. We felt we had a future. And as I read this, Dave, I realised that's all United States football fans want to feel when they watch their team play right now. Not style, not trophy wins, not dominance of major powers. Those will all come. We just want to taste and savour progress. We want to feel that tomorrow is going to be better than today. We want to feel out about the starting 11, about the squad, about the youth pipeline, and to feel progress and momentum and a better tomorrow. And this Colombia game, that's why it hurt ultimately. It wasn't the loss, Davo. It just felt that momentum has truly, truly stalled.
Perhaps a slightly more, I don't know that it's a balanced view, but a view of taking...
If it comes out of your mouth, it undoubtedly will be.
Well, no, it's not more balanced, but it's just perhaps understanding that you can't win every game in international football, and other teams have great moments, other teams have great players, and it's not always going to happen. This was a very good team. This was an elite level team, and in a 7-game playoff series, you would expect to lose a couple of times to Colombia, and they just got taken by a better team on the night. And I don't think there's anything embarrassing about losing to Colombia. It just is. People have been looking forward to this tournament going on in our country for a long time. There was some controversy and some doubts about Jurgen coming in. The Wall Street Journal article didn't make it better. And the fact that he waited so long to bring in Pulisic and Nagbe meant that really the media took him on hard after that game.
Hard. And so on to the Costa Rica CONCACAF Clasico. Against a team from a country, population 4.8 million. Alabama is bigger. New York City is bigger. A fifth of their squad is from the MLS, Davo.
Yeah.
And we took them.
Yeah. Soldier Field, Chicago. The parting of the proverbial footballing clouds, Rog. USA 4, Costa Rica. It's a nice place to go on vacation, Rog. 0 goals from Clint Dempsey, Jermaine Jones, Bobby Wood, and Zuzi in a dominant US performance over Los Ticos. They played better in the snow, Rog.
It was a dark day yesterday, Dave. I kept trying to calm myself down by telling myself that Elon Musk thinks we're all just simulations living in a virtual realm. He said the chances are that human life takes place inside a series of concentric matrix-style worlds, so we're all living in a simulation of a simulation in some very kind of like powerful person's house. So none of this matters, David.
If you could see my face right now trying to understand what on earth you're talking about or Elon Musk is talking about, this is Pinky in the brain. I am Pinky, you are the brain, and all I have to say to that is, no.
What it means is none of this matters, David. Yeah. But it felt like it mattered. It felt to me that nothing else mattered, to be candid. And I felt even worse.
My mind is so blown right now.
When Jurgen bounded out with the joyful energy of a manic labradoodle, no one understands optics more than that man. Pre-game, he'd gone with exactly the same team that had been so impotent only 4 nights earlier.
Alexei tweeted out, no change is change, which I love.
I mean, this is a man who loves to tweak formations. Can we just say, what a ballsy move that was, though?
Yeah.
While everyone around you was losing their head, i.e. me, to go again and say to your veterans who had wilted on Friday, Jermaine Jones, Clint Dempsey, Ali Bedoya, we go again. His only real big tactical change was to go with a windbreaker over the polo, David.
Well, look, I think he wanted to go with his narrative, which is that they played really well against Colombia. In his post-match comments last night after the game, he said, basically, I don't think we played as well as we played against Colombia, but we won 4-0. He felt that the team played very well, and he knew that the journalists were, and us, were absolutely horrified at his statements, and he wanted to prove that he was right.
By giving us more horror. Yeah. Early going, Costa Rica, though, David. Oh. God, they came out swinging.
They came out looking good, Rog.
Their goal was to get an early knockout punch. They pressed so high. Yeah. They'd heard rumours about some kind of a pray for Guzan meme, and they wanted to test its reality. And by the way, Brad Guzan last night, proof that there is power in your prayer, America.
He was very good at catching the ball when it came directly at him, Rog.
The Costa Ricans, God, the first 5 minutes, they sprayed the ball around in what I think they call in football a national sphincter test, a test that the US barely passed. The defence bent and buckled, but it didn't break. Costa Rica out-hustled, out-fought, they out-passioned. Paul Carr blew our mind with this stat. Touches in the attacking third in the first 5 minutes. 26 for Costa Rica, 0 for the US. Joel Campbell, I talked about this on the show last night. What a marvel. Narrowly missed a shot. Went out of bounds. He charged to get the ball. Throwed it at Brad Guzan and dared him to get the ball back into play. Costa Rica were feeling it, David.
Yeah, no, I mean, they came out with a game plan to out-hustle the Americans. I'm sure that they thought that the Americans were going to come out and try to out-hustle them, so they wanted to cancel out their hustling and come at them strong. And
just
it looked like
worst nightmare. We are your worst nightmare. We're not afraid of you.
It looked like it was working, but it was a kamikaze mission, Rog. It was a kamikaze mission because the further you press, the further you push, the more space it leaves behind you. And from the counterattack, their first
true US move, first true combination play. Yeah. Bobby Wood, the great American, Saint Bobby Wood, took a crazy, unnecessary push in the back and made of it what LeBron would have made of it. LeBron would probably say it was so very Draymond Greeny the way he fell down. Clint stepped up to the spot, the cocky gunslinger.
Let's not ignore the role of Roddy Zambrano, Rog, in the awarding of that penalty in Toreador style. I love the South American awarding of penalties. It's done with such panache.
If you don't know who Roddy Zambrano is, listeners,
he's the accidental referee.
Davo loves to go at Roddy Zambrano. He's a ball-denying referee. Yeah. And he had no doubt. And he made it quite clear to the Costa Ricans, I think, before the game, that they were not going to get a single call for the next 90 minutes. First opportunity, Clint up to the spot, 50th US goal. Only Landon Donovan has more. As we noted last night on the show, Christian Pulisic just 49 goals behind Clint with 1. Early goal changed the momentum of the Colombia-US game, David. Yeah. And the Dempsey goal in the 9th minute kind of changed this one because a euphoria overtook our great country from sea to shining sea. National mood change gripped us like a vast continental eclipse. 1 minute it was Gotterdammerung, darkness. The next, it felt like, oh my God, for sure America's going to win the Copa.
However, Costa Rica continued to play in exactly the same way. Another kamikaze mission. They just went up the pitch and they allowed the game to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is a quite entertaining game of football.
It was. I mean, the US struggled to find any connect between their midfield and the attacking three. José Zardes was all over the place. I mean that in both a good and a bad way.
Yeah.
1 minute he was cropping up at left back. The next minute he fell through a hole in time and ended up as striker. The next he was suddenly cleaning things up in the right-hand corner behind the end. He was everywhere. I mean, the next he was tearing in on goal with a heavy touch of a tender lover. And Costa Rica flickered down both flanks, pass and go football. The US flinched rather than defended. Clear to me, the Snow Classico is not as funny to the Costa Rican people as it is to those of us who live in the United States. But the longer the game went on, Davo, the more Costa Rica overcommitted and the US had chances to break, mostly because the Ticos chose an odd time to debut their avant-garde one-at-the-back formation.
Exactly. Playing a sweeper who wasn't even sweeping, Rog. The second goal, we got to hand it, Jermaine Jones. He was fantastic in this game. Box to box, marauding all over the place. And what a finish, Rog.
Oh, he finished like der Boss, das Boss, the boss. Oh,
boss.
A finish of a foreigner. A foreigner who is the best foreigner since I Want to Know What Love Is. But there would be more, Davo.
Yeah.
St. Bobby Wood.
Yeah.
Talking about fantastic finishes.
Yeah, it's a great time.
You know me, I don't like the hyperbolic. But I think after last night's performance, it's safe to put Bobby Wood, St. Bobby, in the same ether as George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Harriet Tubman, John Wayne, Neil Armstrong, Baby Haim, and John Anthony Brooks in the pantheon of great Americans. At W. Holbrook tweeted us, Hawaiian Messi.
Yeah.
And we briefly felt confident enough to look at each other and wonder, who's going to play Bobby Wood in the movie The USA Win the Copa?
Yeah.
I think it's a comedy caper, Judd Apatow helming.
Yeah, Emma Stone. She loves playing Hawaiians.
I actually think it's going to be Jason Momoa, Khal Drogo, Honolulu born and bred. And suddenly we're like, those 11 changes Jurgen Klinsmann made to this team, he's a sporting genius, David.
Yeah, brilliant. 3-0 at halftime. Only the tiny little shaded area of a Venn diagram of Costa Ricans who are Liverpool fans were holding out any hope. This is our Istanbul. You could hear them screaming from near the equator, Rog.
But in the second half, really, that American defence gel, John Brooks, what a game. The most dominant American central defender who's not ginger since Marcelo Balboa. Fabian Johnson, an absolute monster, dominating the flank with speed and brains.
Played really, really well.
And the American Outlaws on rapturous form. At Kenneth Knoopel tweeted us the best part of the USA victory, the chant of, it's not even snowing, prior to the fourth goal. That fourth goal, Davo, from Zuzi, is the one thing I don't understand. I mean, on at 70 minutes, Graham Zuzi, while Pasilic and Nagby were sitting on the bench, I felt like we really missed a chance to get those two on to grow without any pressure. I think Wando trotting on at 77 minutes was just Jurgen trolling the rest of us.
Yeah.
I love Graham Zuzi. I am all in on him. I am Zuzi, conqueror of universes. I mean, his goal was well finished, but I would have traded it in a heartbeat for Pulisic getting 20 minutes in a low-pressure reality. I think that would have done us far more down the road, David.
And yet, hard to criticise Klinsmann for the manner in which his team came back, found a 4-0 victory that changes the way that group looks right now. And let's face it, he's seeing these boys train, he's seeing the dynamics in the squad, and hard to criticise him.
And what I realised last night was that Jurgen sent out a signal. Against Colombia, the old veterans let us down. Last night, it was the old heads that won the game.
Yeah.
And what was amazing, the young kids barely got a look in on either night.
Yeah.
This is the tournament at which Jurgen is going to live or die with his veterans. There's no room for youth. Jurgen is Jose Mourinhoing it through this Copa. And when he was asked after the game why he didn't bring on Nagby or Pulisic, his answer was, I'm only going to talk about the guys who played. He wants to control the selection narrative, David.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what he doesn't want is to allow them on the field, have them impress, and then have a drumbeat start in the media that these two guys should be starting in the next game. It's part of the reason that I've always believed that Landon Donovan was dropped ahead of World Cup 2014.
Yeah.
I think Jurgen knew Landon wasn't going to start, and he didn't want his presence on the bench to become a distraction for the media if the US had lost that first game to Ghana.
Yeah.
In the same way, I think Jurgen didn't bring on Pulisic, didn't bring on Darlington Nagbe, because if they had played well, then it would give the media a foothold to start saying, against Paraguay, we need to start these games. Jurgen wants to control his own fate.
There is also a team management and man management aspect to this, though, Rog. These are the players who've played on the US men's national team for a while. These are the players who've earned their spots. These are the players who've, been through the cauldrons of, World Cup qualifying, the World Cup, that Gold Cup loss, all of those things. And to suddenly allow Pulisic and Darlington Nagbe to become dominant members of this team when they haven't been members of the squad for very long, that's difficult. It's tough for those players to accept, and only he knows those personal dynamics. Jurgen has a lot more to deal with this team than we do when we criticize what he does over Twitter. He has to manage these people. He has to manage all of these players and have it make sense to them what he's deciding to do. And I think he's right when people ask him about Nagbe and Pulisic in the post-match to say, I'm only going to talk about the players who played. How would it feel for the guys, Bradley, for Jones, for Bobby Wood, if he's just talking about Nagbe and Pulisic in the post-match?
Oh, St. Bobby Wood. I did love Costa Rica coach Oscar Ramirez post-game. He said, soccer-wise, we were the superior team. They scored the goals, but we played the better soccer. Reading from the Jurgen Klinsmann playbook, David.
Yeah, absolutely, Rog.
We would have got away with it if it wasn't for you pesky kids. What a day for American fans to go from the darkness of pre-game to rhapsody at the final whistle for all the challenges of this team. And they remain, David. It was a night to remember. And I loved Michael Bradley when he said before the game, it's simple what we need to do. We just need more guys to play better as a team. It is that simple. Last night, the US did that,
Exactly,
and they gave
what
us
happened.
Feelings that, for me, almost approach happiness, David.
And this is what the US team do again and again, Roger. They bounce back from adversity. They cometh the hour, cometh the team. They do something amazing when so little is expected of them. It's a remarkable resilience.
I mean, we've got to ask ourselves, how do we feel in the light of day, David?
Yeah.
To me, I thought this morning when I woke up, the words of the great 1990s US soccer coach, the wonderful Bob Gansler, came to me. He always used to say, as a coach, you shouldn't take the highs too high and you never take the lows too low. And I think that kind of sums up where this US team is right now. We are neither as bad as it seemed late night Friday, and we're definitely not as good as it felt when we raised our drinking vessels and toasted last night, Davo. And the question is, what now?
Well, I actually think the performance against Costa Rica, there were certain elements which I look for in watching this US team that I actually think there was significant progress. I think we've already talked about John Brooks. I think it's too early to talk about Brooks and Cameron being the central defensive partnership. But I think in John Brooks, you've got the emergence of a real quality central defender for years to come in the US men's national team. I think when you look at a goal scorer, I think Bobby Wood is starting to look like a legitimate goal scorer for the US team. I think the only next thing is who is going to emerge to go and be a star player for this team in the mold of a Landon, in the mold of a Clint Dempsey, in the mold of a Michael Bradley as they start to age. And I think we still got to, could be Zuzi. That's a joke. But it's a...
I am Zuzi, the conqueror of universes.
I think we still got to see him. We got to see if Pulisic is going to be that guy, but we can't crown him before he has...
Oh, we can.
Appeared and before he's done a lot. But it's but I see a lot of progress there, and I think that's one of the best performances I've seen the US men make against one of their CONCACAF rivals ever.
To me, Davo, it's the best of times and the worst of times at the same time. I mean, the US problems have not gone away despite the 4-0 triumph last night. This is still a limited squad, short on true class and team play. And the latter is what concerns me, that collective team play, that ability to create through the midfield. Costa Rica exposed themselves brutally, and the US had enough veteran savvy to make them pay. But an inferior team who sit back or a superior team who come onto this US team are going to remain a real challenge. I'm worried about the Paraguay game this Saturday. At Clone Poster tweeted, Roger Bennett is looking so far ahead, he's visualising Daenerys already on the Iron Throne. I mean, the good news is Paraguay are without the red-carded midfield playmaker Oscar Romero. They'll have travelled 5,000 miles, which is amazing, between these three games in this tournament, which is as energy-sapping as any opponent. But they're a robust foe. It's going to be hard to break them down. And as Victor Ayala's long-range thunder demonstrated against Colombia in the 2-1 loss last night, which saw Colombia progress to the elimination round, this is a team that can score some beauties.
Yeah, Paraguay, always a tough team. Perennially a tough team. Aggressive defenders, aggressive tacklers, perhaps a little bit too aggressive, we saw with their player sent off for 2 fouls in under 2 minutes yesterday. But they're a very, very good football team. But I think the US have got them. I think the US have got this because the thing that the US have in spades that, oh my God, I wish we could bottle up and give to some other teams around the world, notably England and Chelsea, is that spirit, that never say die attitude, that self-belief, and that just aggressiveness, that competitiveness. I just love it. I love it. I love it. And that's the way I want to see the Americans play football.
Last note on the US that we have to touch upon, despite the win, I think the most significant moment in this Copa for the US team and the tenure of Jurgen Klinsmann as the US coach was the pre-game comments from Sunil Gulati when he said, "We will look at everything after this competition. The results of the last 18 months have not been what we would have hoped for, especially in the official competitions."
Yeah.
I mean, I imagined...
We have short-term goals, we have long-term goals. That's what you say before you fire someone, Rog.
That was amazing timing. Sunil Gulati is a very political creature. These comments do not come out of the blue, or they will not ad-libbed. He will have tested the waters. He will have spoken to the senior players, team officials, the other coaches. While I imagine Jurgen probably marched into Sunil's sweep after the final whistle and negotiated a 10-year extension, a 250% pay bump, and title expansion to include Sunil's role as Columbia professor and unlimited pies.
Yeah.
The glass that covered the in emergency button has been shattered, Davo.
Yeah.
And 7 out of 10 times when these comments are made by a chairman of a club or the US soccer president, in this case, it leads to changes at the top in the way the team is run, ultimately leading to the ouster of the manager, right, David?
And I think it's a shame. And personally, I think if the result against Paraguay is what is going to determine whether or not Jurgen stays as US manager, I think it's a shame. If you built these Copa America teams into a league table and you had them play throughout an entire league season, home and away, so it would be, a 30 game tournament or 30 game league table, I'm telling you, there wouldn't be a lot of difference between Paraguay and the US. I think US are a slightly better team, but I don't think there'd be a lot of difference. I don't think there would be great shame in not beating or losing to Paraguay, even at home in the US. There are going to be a lot of Paraguayan fans out there, Rog. Okay, some other storylines. Brazil looking like a Canal Street counterfeit version of themselves, Rog. A 0-0 draw with Ecuador to start the tournament. They take on Haiti tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time in Orlando. Haiti, that's a heartwarming story, Rog.
A third-string team sent from Brazil, like an NFL team fielding their practice squad. I guess the Cleveland Browns fielding their first team. Boos serenaded them off the field. Coach Dunga grimaced in his technical area, a look of doom on his face that could only be described as Stanis Baratheon-esque. The truth is, no one in Brazil is talking about this tournament. It's important to us in the US, but Brazilian journalists have only written about how absolutely no one cares. This tournament matters to the US, to Mexico, who would love to win, in the United States, to Argentina, maybe. Who
want to win a tournament.
Ewan McKenna wrote in the Times, one of the many myths about Brazilian fans is they love soccer. The reality is they love winning. They revere winning beautifully, but as their national team drifts relentlessly away from its glorious past, they've rarely been further from both of those things. No Neymar in the team. He was in attendance. You've got to explain to me, Davo. He was sitting with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
He was taking hilarious selfies with Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
A 10-second slice of human poetry, watching both men wordlessly click through their selfie face tropes from cool to blasé to point of orgasm.
Exactly, they're good at it.
Neymar, does he have no mates that he has to have these relationships kind of brokered by Hollywood backdoor guy? I mean, how's that work?
I picture him in that Beverly Hills 25-room mansion that he's rented, just with no one there, just playing alone on the basketball court, swimming alone in the pool, walking around the grounds, saying, Neymar, 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 echoing through the grand halls around the grand staircase.
Second question.
Yeah.
Why is he not hanging out with us?
Yeah, well, we're old, we're bald,
yeah.
we don't speak Portuguese.
Yeah, we're perfect wingmen.
Well, though, nor does Bieber,
Yeah.
one assumes.
I've got to tell you, just like Obama has gone on every single podcast apart from ours, I think we're the only people that Neymar has not hung out with.
Yeah, okay.
In America.
I'll see. I'll make some calls to my agency and see what we can do.
Come and hang out with us,
Rog.
mate.
Okay, one side that appears all in on Copa America, as you mentioned, Rog. Mexico, El Tri, looking as stylish as their manager Juan Carlos Osorio suits in their opening game, 3-1 win over Uruguay in Glendale, Arizona Sunday, Rog. Donald Trump's worst nightmare, but they looked impressive.
Yeah, it was. The Mexican crowd was just remarkable. The noise, the cauldron.
Yeah.
I imagine Trumpy watching the spectacle and realising that he completely underestimated the size of the wall that he was planning on building.
Exactly, it needs to be bigger.
At Bethany Robertson.
He needs to build it in America.
Said Mexico's men are enjoying the same experience in the US as the US women enjoyed in Canada last year. It's a fantastic tactical battle between Mexican man buns and Uruguayan bulls. Fascinating game. Mexico went one up and then went a man up. But you got to credit Uruguay. They hung on to this game like a terrier. Mexico eased off. Uruguay supercharged forward through the gut with the kind of collective play I'd long for America to show. This from a country of 3.4 million people and a coach, Oscar Tabarez, who's invested his energies in youth development, forging deep connectivity between the Uruguayan players, even when they are living abroad. When Mexico went down to 10 men, Guardado, a man who looks a bit like a Mexican Anthony Weiner, got a second yellow. Uruguay equalised. But having climbed the mountain, Uruguay then threw themselves off the cliff face.
Yeah, great substitution, though, by Juan Carlos Osorio. Brings on Jimenez. I thought he changed the game, Rog. And 2-1, 3-1, that's it. Mexico looking good.
Rafa Marquez exhumed himself one more time, suddenly shape-shifting into the form of a 22-year-old elite striker with a beautiful finish. This game was like a metaphor for life. You struggle, you grapple with all your energy for 80% of your life just to keep up. And then once you do find that equaliser, Uruguay, and you think you've made it, you get utterly crapped upon and wonder why you gave your all to begin with, David.
Absolutely. Rog, Mexico's next game is Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time against Wes Morgan and Jamaica at the Rose Bowl.
Wes Morgan may or may not be
Pasadena,
asked to play. The fact that he could not give a crap and they admitted to the press that he was too hungover after a week of partying and so didn't want to start, pretty well sums up many teams' approaches to the Copa.
Yeah, very, very true. I do think that they will get close to selling out the Rose Bowl for that game.
Talking about not giving a crap about playing.
Yeah. Finally, a Leo Messi-less Argentina, despite the crowd calling for his name, earn a win in one of the tournament's marquee matchups, a repeat of last year's Copa America final. They beat Chile 2-1 Monday night. I enjoyed that game of football. Pugnacious,
hard-pressing Chile side ran Argentina close. Messi spent most of his time on the bench doing that footballer thing when they cut their mouth when they speak. I like to believe they do that even when there's no cameras on them. When they're at the breakfast table reading the newspaper in the morning, they cut their mouth. When they're alone with their partner during pillow talk, they cup their mouth. He wasn't alone on the bench. He was cupping his mouth with Lavezzi, Pastore, Aguero, and Lamela. They didn't need Messi. 2 turnovers in midfield, 2 counters, 2 goals, both at the near post. First by Modigliani's Di Maria, the second by the wonderful Eva Banega. Not great Argentina that we crave, Davo, but fear not, because the Euros are just around the corner. And the European football world has gone blonde. I don't know how they all decide. Do they send a memo around? Are all these European footballers on one giant WhatsApp group? Aaron Ramsey, Phil Jones, Marouane Fellaini have all dyed their hair blonde. Fellaini looks amazing. His blonde hair looks like Valderrama, as if Valderrama was really, really crap at football. We will be previewing the Euros on Vice Sports tomorrow, Thursday at 10 a.m. and then 5 p.m. on Friday with Vampire Weekend's Chris Thompson. And the wonderful, God, I could not be more excited, Becky Sauerbrunn. Okay, speaking of the Euros, Rog, England coach Roy Hodgson has reportedly told Jamie Vardy to keep his focus on France, despite Arsenal triggering a release clause in his Leicester City contract. Arsenal triggering the $29 million Vardy release clause is surreal, David. It's so surreal. Stubborn Arsene Wenger belatedly trying to give the people what they want. It's like an Onion headline from the beginning of last season, Rog. The big question, is this the kind of ending that we want for the Jamie Vardy movie? I thought he was going to cross the narrow sea on Greyjoy longboats as dragons flew overhead to support his attack on the Seven Kingdoms. Didn't think he was going to just stuff himself into an Arsenal jersey. It's such a weird one. Arsenal are not a team that love to play on the break and suck up the opponent's back four to give Vardy space that he craves to run in behind.
Well, not anymore.
If I were an Arsenal fan, I'd rather have Riyad Mahrez than Jamie Vardy.
Yeah.
And there's rumours they're going after him too. The longer it goes on, the less I believe he is actually going to move. He just signed a new contract with Leicester mid-season.
Yeah.
And this, for him, could all be about getting a topping up on that new contract. If Arsenal are rejected by Jamie Vardy, Davo, Arsenal Twitter is going to be so full of self-loathing and humiliation. I do fear for it.
He doesn't feel like an Arsenal player to me, Rog, in any way. Doesn't feel like an Arsene Wenger kind of player. Can't even imagine him in the jersey. Just can't imagine who he'd play with. Can't imagine who he'd match up with. And I just think it would be so sad if Jamie Vardy, after everything that Leicester have done for him, turned his back on that team.
At Spursy Yank tweeted, I know there's a rats fleeing the sinking ship joke here somewhere, but I can't figure it out. I
think you just did.
There are rumours about Mahrez also going, and I say the varnish of the feel-good Leicester story beginning to blister not 1 month after they Bocelli'd their way into lifting the trophy.
Yeah.
As in life, so in football, everything good must end. I think we are going to be deprived of the fascinating experiment of watching Leicester truly defend their title if Vardy and Mahrez go. They'll slink back into the pack like an exquisite ice sculpture that melts away without a trace apart from the emotions that it once conjured. I do think Leicester should try and sell Arsene Wenger the Jamie Vardy lookalike, though, and see if he notices.
Yeah. Up north, Rog, Jose Mourinho and Man United are daring to Zlatan. How amazing would that be?
It's crazy. A reported $320,000 a week salary is being floated around. The decision reportedly is in Mourinho's hands. If it happens, will it be a season of wonder or a camp cameo role of brand making?
I saw Zlatan play a couple of times last season up close and was so impressed with how physically imposing he is, how many defenders he sucks up. And in the Premier League, if you require double teaming, it just opens up space. So I think for Man United would be an amazing signing and proof of why Jose Mourinho was the right guy to come to Man United if he can attract a player like that to go and play at Old Trafford.
I mean, to me, the Manchester United commercial department will love this move, but there's a pure footballing decision. A truck filled with cash to lure a 34-year-old for his swan song to Old Trafford after playing 17 seasons in 5 countries. It feels very Michael Jordan at the Washington Wizards. But the best thing he's got going for him, from a Mourinho perspective, probably is that Zlatan might be the one human being who loathes Pep Guardiola more than Mourinho does. And Bonnie Roney put it best in the Guardian. He says, if he does come, Zlatan will be here for a good time, not a long time. Should say Man City have also begun their dealings in the Manchester arms race. Injured midfielder Ilkay Gundogan became Pep Guardiola's first City signing for $30.3 million on a deal from the fast depleted trout farm at Borussia Dortmund, the first of many, many world-class players who will be imported en masse into the TV money-soaked Premier League this off-season.
In news that would certainly have the NCAA investigating Rog for recruiting violations if this were college sports, Everton have agreed to terms with Southampton on a deal that paves the way for Ronald Koeman to become the Toffees' new manager. Congratulations, Rog.
Thanks, mate.
I don't think you're that happy about it.
I'm completely confused by this new reality in which we're living. Say about Koeman. He's a winner, a rigorous man manager, tactician, motivator, who thinks creatively about modern football and the strategy of building a winning team with a true emphasis on communication.
He gets very pink when he's angry.
I love that in a man. Yeah. He's the first feather in the cap for Everton's new owner, Farhad Moshiri, who had Koeman inked in as his first choice and then did whatever he had to do to get his man. Mm-hmm. From a marketing perspective, I like the idea of the Ronald Blueman group doing some kind of tie-in. Terrible, terrible marketing tie-in. A lot of you asking, why would a man leave Southampton, who have finished the last 2 seasons 6th and 7th, and move to a club who've come 11th 2 seasons on the trot? And the reality is, Koeman was always frustrated at Southampton by the constant poaching of his talent, mostly by Liverpool Football Club. And the £100 million Moshiri is rumoured to be offering as a transfer kitty this year means this is a different Everton to the one in the past. We are no longer, this is why it's discombobulating for me, Davo, we are no longer a scrappy underdog outsider. And it's really odd as an Evertonian to see our club so long having sand kicked into its face by the bullies on the beach just poach someone else's talent. And if you couple in with that, the fact Koeman's a coach who'll view Everton still as a stepping stone rather than a place he wants to be at for a decade, that feels odd to me as an Evertonian, but that's modern football. I just say it's going to be funny cheering on an Everton who are expected to win next season. I don't know what I'm going to do when you take away my losing, David.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
nothing
It's
without my losing.
Very difficult for you, Rog. Swansea City have become the latest American-owned Premier League club. Sunday, the club announced that DC United managing general partner Jason Levine and Memphis Grizzlies executive vice chairman Steve Kaplan completed their purchase of the team. It's still subject to final approval from the Premier League, but looks good, Rog.
Yeah, I mean, another Premier League team in American hands. While it's not clear which Americans back them up with the money, it is a fascinating move. Swansea's always been a 21.1% fan-owned club since the team flirted with bankruptcy in 2002. And it's also always been viewed as a model of how to run a small Premier League club in an ambitious but strategic style. So watch this space, because they're going to be absentee landlords attempting to lead a club who are inherently local. It's going to be fascinating.
Okay, your weekend looks like this, courtesy of Mini USA. As we mentioned, Euro 2016 kicks off Friday with France versus Romania at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. We'll be on vicesports.com immediately after the game. Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, it's England versus Mother Russia on ESPN, Rog. And Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Rog, back to Copa Aniversario, USA versus Paraguay on Fox Sports 1.
One of my favourite guays, David.
Yeah, SeatGeek Copa America ticket giveaway. Rog, every pod from now until June 20th, our friends at SeatGeek are giving one lucky GFOP a chance to go to a Copa America game live and in person. SeatGeek is a startup ticket company. Think of them as the Leicester City of the ticket world, Rog. For a chance to win, all you have to do is download the SeatGeek app or sign up at SeatGeek.com and enter the promo code GFOP. And just to satisfy the Men in Blazers small council, we have to tell you, no purchase necessary, void where prohibited, open to all legal residents over the age of 18. Visit SeatGeek.com/rules for official rules. Even if you do not win, the promo code GFOP will still get you a $20 rebate on your first SeatGeek purchase.
Claudio Ranieri runs SeatGeek.
Yeah, it seems like he does, Rog. Okay, there are many ways to connect to us. One is our Amazon Emporium. Helps keep the show going anytime you go on Amazon for items big or small. Just click off the Emporium page and Men in Blazers gets a tiny percentage that allows us to cover the cost of creating the show. What are you putting in the Emporium this week, Rog? My guess, it's a book.
It is a book, but I tell you what I'm not putting in.
Yeah.
A movie, but I wish I could. Muhammad Ali. A lot has been talked about, written about, for the great sporting superstar, cultural icon, 20th century titan after his passing. I just say When We Were Kings is one of my favourite films. If you've not seen it, do so. I watched it again over the weekend. The scenes of him jogging in the street and leading African kids in chants of Ali Boumaier, they will bring tears to your eyes. He was beloved in England, Davo.
Yeah,
beloved.
very much so.
Oh, absolutely adored.
But we've never really forgiven any heavyweight fighter for not being as good as Muhammad Ali. He still set a standard that no one else has even reached. This, the grace, the beauty. What a fighter to watch, Rod.
Do you know his great-grandfather came from Ireland, Abe Grady? One of the reasons he was loved there. He also battered Henry Cooper, 2 nearly victories for England, which are the kind we actually love the most in our
love
country.
A nearly victory.
I love his advice too. He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life. But my real important thing is the book I mentioned earlier, Second-Hand Time, a magnus opus by Svetlana Alexievich, the Eastern European studs Turkle who just won the Nobel Prize for Literature for her oral histories. This one is immense. I think I put one in earlier in the year, Zinky Boys, about the war in Afghanistan, but this one examines the collapse of the Soviet Union from dozens of perspectives. The voices are all the more powerful for being so ordinary, speaking to the nostalgia, confusion, incredible sense of loss that reigns across Eastern Europe, and anger at being lied to in the face of the confusion and anarchy of the present, and a desire, a deep desire to believe in the past again. For all of its misery and suffering, there is an order in the motherland and an intoxicating sense of collective empire. And that's what makes this book a grueling read, but it makes you understand modern geopolitics in a more human way, makes you understand life in an enriched yet mortifying fashion, which makes the whole thing a priceless experience to immerse yourself in.
Rog, I'm taking the Smalls to France next week for a few days. I'm afraid I'm going to be leaving you without me to cover some of the Copa America, some of Euro 2016. We're flying on a connecting flight through Paris, Rog. My rule is whenever you take a connecting flight, you never check in luggage. So we need rolling luggage. George, my 5-year-old, doesn't have rolling luggage, so I've bought him this. Look at that, Rog. Beautiful piece of rolling luggage. It's the Disney Store Star Wars BB-8 hard-shell rolling case, carry-on suitcase. It's like a little R2-D2, Rog, that you roll around and you keep your carry-on it. The boy's going to love it.
He's going to love it less that he can only fit in 2 pairs of undies and nothing else. It's the smallest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's all he needs, Rog. Okay, you can watch every episode of Men in Blazers Euro 2000 and Copa on vicesports.com. Just click on the tab at the top that says Men in Blazers. All past episodes and digital videos are up there as well. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, The Raven, which we produce with our partner Guinness. We've got a special Raven going out this Friday. We'll have a temperature check on all things Copa America and a special Euro 2016 preview in which some of our favourite past guests preview their home countries. Seamus talks Ireland, Marcin Gortat previews Poland, and Robbie Mustoe previews England. You can follow us on Twitter at Men in Blazers, at MC Davies, at Roger Bennett, on Instagram at Men in Blazers, at Embassy_Davies, on Facebook, Men in Blazers. We started Facebook Live yesterday, Roger, and we enjoyed it a lot. You can always send your ravens to the crap part of Soho. You can always email us at meninblazers@gmail.com. Venderpunk Rog.
War pig!
Who wants to sex Matumbo?
Exposure!
Courage.
Take that, Gloria!
Is that your analysis?
Oh, I love seersucker.
Abrigado, rock on, mate.